Okay, welcome. Welcome everyone. Good to have you here at Piano Tech Radio Hour once again. Getting here into the fall season. Fall season's pretty much in full swing. It's a good time for business generally for piano technicians, so we can kind of enjoy that, maybe keep a little bit of eye on the off season, on the summertime, make our plans and our schemes so we can keep afloat in the off season. And then of course, it's the academic season often coincides with the swings in the piano industry. And interestingly enough, we kind of have some academic themes the past few sessions. So that's right in alignment with what we're used to. I'll go ahead and start giving an introduction to what's going on here. Of course, we're streaming out there on Facebook and YouTube. For those of you that may be checking this out for the first time, we'll give you some foundations and we'll hand it into the session. And welcome to everyone. So welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And if you'd like to keep up with this program, Piano Tech Radio Hour, you can attend every live session easily and support the future growth of this fine production. You could subscribe at bit.ly/join-PTRH. That's bit.ly/join-PTRH. And we're always coming every Saturday with some new content. We've got a library where we keep track of all that. And for the master classes, we're focusing on some damper and pedal and trap and back action work as of late with Joe Jackson out there in St. Louis. So keep an eye out for our latest content for our master classes. I'll now give an introduction to Hannah Ryman. I'll give a brief introduction as she's joined us several times. You can kind of look back on sessions to find out more about her and her passion. I'll give some basic facts. She's an excellent pianist, a singer. She also does things in film and entertainment as well. And in addition to what we focus on here, we focus on the stretto piano movement, the movement on sort of narrow keyed pianos that facilitate and accommodate playing and practice for people with smaller than average hands. I don't know, even if maybe they are average hands, if we come and talk about the sort of discrepancies in what's available and what's actually out there. But in addition to that, she's, a big fan and an acolyte of Joni Mitchell. She's done some wonderful music in that domain, and a very talented individual. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you, Hannah, and then you're going to hand it over to our main host for the day. But yeah, give us a situation on what's going on with you and Stretto these days.
Thank you, Ethan. So happy to be here and super excited that Carol is with us here. Dr. Carol Leone and her esteemed colleagues from all over the country and one from Germany today. So I'll go as rapidly as I can. There's a lot happening in the Stretto Piano Concerts community. We started as the International Stretto Piano Festival in 2021, and we're in our 4th year. We're planning a wonderful event. The next festival will be May 25th to June 2nd, 2024. Right now, I am in this wonderful recording studio in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. This is my piano that has the reduced width keys for my little hands and everybody else's little hands. I will be making a record. I've been coming and practicing every day for as many consecutive days as I can for weeks. And I'm going to finish this recording in early November, and I am inviting anyone who would like to come and make a record in this studio and play on a 5.9 octave inch keyboard. Please come and try the piano if you're in New York. If you'd like details about how to make a recording here. I will give you information. Andy Tomasi might stick his head in. He is the owner of this studio. There's a lot of space, and we already have 4 or 5 other artists lined up to start recording here in December. We are going to have a Rachmaninoff event, and that, in short, is really not only about Rachmaninoff, but his friends and his contemporaries, any music that was written from when he was alive, 1876 until 1943. It will be an online event of live streamed and recorded concerts approximately February 17th to 29th, 2024. Please write to us at stratopianoconcerts.org if you'd like to participate. I spoke with our advisor, David Amram, last night. He was born during those years, so he can be part of that event. And if any one of the professors would like a free copy of his Sonata for Piano, the only condition is that you actually have somebody who plays it or you play it yourself. I will send you a copy, and I will send you a recording of John Nakamatsu playing his piano concerto, which has similar kinds of jazz harmonies, similar type of pianistic writing. We want to promote David. He's turning 93 this November. He was the first resident composer ever at Lincoln Center with Leonard Bernstein, among many incredible things. And his biography is coming out this month too. So other than that, I just have 2 other short announcements. We would like to have as many live concerts as possible for the festival in May. We'd like to invite all the university professors, if you'd like to be presenters, if you have a small hall, a large hall, a stretto piano that has narrower keys, and you'd like to organize 1 or more events, we would be so honored if you would join us. We have people willing to do this with us in Stuttgart, in Australia, and believe it or not, I spoke with David Clavins last night, and he said he would do it in Latvia with us as well. So I have Ethan to thank for that. I met David Clavins because of the Piano Tech Radio Hour, and he is now working on the first prototype Clavins Stretto Unicorda piano. So I am so excited about this year and about all of you who are here with us today. I hope we can build our community, and I am indebted to Carol Leone, who is a prized pioneer who has done so much for the academic community and for these kind of pianos. So with no further ado, Carol, please take it from here.
Thank you, Hannah. And thank you, Ethan, for hosting us again today. Hannah, there's so many exciting things happening, and I can barely keep up with all of your energy, everything that's going on with Stretto Piano Concerts. So just very, very eager for these new things to happen in 2024. So I'm coming today wearing several hats, actually. So I am professor and chair of piano studies at SMU Meadows School of the Arts. Also, I am an artistic advisor for the International Stretto Festival, Stretto Piano Concerts, which Hannah is the director. I'm a founding member of Pianists for Alternatively Sized Keyboards. That's hard to say. PASC is what we say. Rhonda Boyle in Melbourne, Australia is the administrator for that wonderful organization. And also I am on the board of directors for the Donison Steinbuehler Standard Foundation, the DS Standard Foundation. This is David Steinbuehler, the builder of many of the keyboards that we have. He's made his company a nonprofit. So those are the hats I'm wearing today. We are really excited that we now have keyboards, narrow keyboards, Stretto keyboards in approximately 20 universities across the world. And today we have some special colleagues with us from some of those universities. So I am really thrilled that we were able to get David Forbat from the University of Central Oklahoma. He's a professor of piano there. He's with us today. And Logan Skelton, professor of piano and director of doctoral studies in piano performance at the University of Michigan. And we have Sylvia Malland. She Stuttgart, Germany. She is at the State University of Music and Performing Arts there. And we were supposed to also have dear Jessica Johnson with us. She took ill. And so she has a few words that she sent to me that I will read to you in just a few minutes. She is the professor of piano and piano pedagogy and director of graduate studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So, and we hope that possibly, at least maybe today, a little bit later, or maybe in a future time, we can have Catherine Amanda Owens. She's having some issues from where she's traveling today about connecting with us. So last time we had another group of professors. It's really exciting how we are now joining together to really have this great synergy. And so I'm so excited. Thank you all for joining today. Each one of us is going to share how the keyboards are being used in our university, and our students' general experiences, our own personal experiences with the keyboard. And I will actually take the opportunity to go first to share some things, and then each one of our guests will speak to you as well. So at SMU, we've been doing this for 23 years. We got our first keyboard in the year 2000. And the primary reason we use the keyboards is for prevention of injuries, expansion of repertoire choices, and for instruction in physical relaxation. So that means that even if you're not going to perform on the keyboards, you might be practicing on them for that type of development of your technique. And of course, many of the students are also performing on them, expanding their repertoire and preventing injury. Our setup that we have at SMU for concert performances and recordings, we have a large auditorium with 3 concert pianos, and one of them is an American Steinway D. It has 3 keyboard actions. So it's got the original action with the 6.5-inch octave, and then a second action with keys which provide the pianist a 6-inch octave, and then a third action that provides a 5.5-inch octave. So we call them the DS 5.5, the DS 6.0, and the 6.5. These 2 alternate actions that we have were built by Steinbuehler, David Steinbuehler, and so we call them the DS keyboards. Also at SMU, we have, for practice and instruction, we have 2 Steinway Bs that were retrofitted with alternate keyboards by David Steinbuehler, and one is a 5.5 and one is a 6.0. And then lastly, we have several uprights in the building in the practice rooms, both 5.5 and 6.0. We use those for, experimentation, practice, research, sometimes with the piano prep students as well. Our technician at SMU is David Brown. He is always willing to talk about his experience as a technician. So, he would be happy to be contacted, I think, anytime to talk about that aspect of working with the keyboards. Just a couple things I wanted to say about, I'm very proud of some of the pioneering things that we've done at SMU. Besides being the first university to adopt the keyboards, I guess we had the first public recital performing on these keyboards in a university. And we published a study in 2003. In 2003, students started giving degree recitals. In 2005, we had our first child in the prep department to study on the keyboards. 2014, I recorded a commercial CD on the keyboards using all 3 sizes. And then in 2015, we actually facilitated the first use of the the Stretto keyboards in a piano competition. So these are things that I think, just sort of building blocks for this movement. And now, it's really developed. The whole movement has developed so much farther than we could have ever dreamed. I do want to say, before I turn this over, that the DS Standard Foundation leases Stretto keyboards to universities. And so a lot of the universities right now where they're located, they have purchased the keyboards, but some are actually working on a lease program. And so if any universities are interested in experimenting with the keyboard for the leases for a year, please contact me and we'll get you set up. So I do want to read to you now what Jess Johnson sent in. And she is our professor that was supposed to join us from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She says, "I'm sorry I won't be able to join you today. I'm incredibly passionate about this and so grateful for Hannah and for Carol for leading the way." And she says, "We have here at the University of Wisconsin a DS 5.5 and a DS 6.0 available in our performance halls." And she says, "I have a DS 5.5 in my studio and at home. They have a DS 5.5 in a dedicated practice room. And they have a grant for another DS 6.0 in the works. Jess says that any student or guest can perform on these size keyboards. And she says, I remain deeply committed to this and I'm so grateful that our community is growing." So Jess, if you're listening to this either now or in the recording afterwards, we're so sorry you couldn't join us today, but Jess is just an amazing pianist and an artist, and she has been performing. I think the majority of her performing has been on these keyboards in the past few years. So if you have the opportunity to hear any recordings of hers, I highly recommend them. Okay, so now I would love to call on David Forbat, who he's had the keyboards at his school for quite a few years, and you have to remind me of the year, David, but tell us about you.
We got to get him unmuted. I muted him earlier just to keep the echo down.
I was going to say, Carol, you're going to have to remind me of the year. I was going to add, that was one of my questions. When was it? But I was living in Dallas 2000 through 2005, and so I was in the same town as SMU, and I remember when that study came out, and it piqued my interest in I guess it was 2003. You were saying, and then I started teaching here in Oklahoma. This is Oklahoma, folks, where I'm talking from, near Oklahoma City, Edmond, Oklahoma, University of Central Oklahoma, and I remember somehow I'm trying to remember how we got reconnected, Carol, but anyway, it was all about these keyboards, and I wanted to have it at UCO, and so we got in touch at some point, and so David Steinbuehler, we were in touch with him, and he built a DS 6.0 for us. Also, I think perhaps, I had my students take a field trip to your school. Mm-hmm. I brought, 10 or 15 students in a van, and we all came and just came around to your place and got the scope of the performance pianos plus the practice rooms, and kind of got it into our heads as to what we were talking about. And then David Steinbuehler measured one of our pianos and built us a 6.0. And some of those students that shortly followed played their master's recital completely and one, in fact, did a split recital. He did the first half on a standard action, and then we had intermission, switched out the keyboard, and finished the recital on the DS 6.0. And I loved that because they could do that. We also have, I guess it's a Charles Walter upright. He's the, and is his keyboard a DS? Is it a David Steinbuehler keyboard inside the Charles F. Walter upright, or is it just Charles Walter does his own?
Yeah, no, I think that it was retrofitted. Some of them have been retrofitted by Walter using David's keys, and some were just retrofitted right there in the shop. Yeah.
Okay, well, so that's what we have. We were given a donation to have David build us a keyboard, which I was just explaining. We put to use, and students performed their recitals on. And then shortly before the pandemic, we had another donation of a piano, another Steinway concert grand, and it took the place of the piano, which was mated to that keyboard that David Steinbuehler. Did you hear what I'm saying? So basically, we moved the piano out of the concert hall into a rehearsal hall, and a new, beautiful, brand new Steinway. The only problem was that piano was not mated to the keyboard that David Steinbuehler had built. And so we stopped using it for several years. The whole pandemic, we didn't use it, and maybe a couple of years before. And I think really I'm indebted to this podcast, because when you reached out to me to ask how things were going, I said, things actually have taken a bit of a dive because we changed pianos and it's no longer fitted. And you came back, Carol, saying, well, maybe there's a way to work that action into the new piano. So since that time, our technician, I have, what is the saying? The host has spotlighted your video. Would you like to unmute your microphone to speak? Okay, all right. I had something to click on my screen there.
That was from earlier, I think. Just popped up or something. You're good.
Okay, good. All right. So am I talking too long?
No.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the exciting conclusion to this story. I think good news. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's retrofit. I think he had to do something leveling the key bed had to be adjusted so that the hammers were at the right height to hit the strings. But he played it. It works. I said, can I play it? We haven't been able to quite connect on a time. I think he's hesitant to have me be the one insert and to be the one who removes and inserts the keyboard and I think that's a trust issue. I think that once I did it before when we had the other piano, but he's a new technician, and I think he just wants to make sure it doesn't get damaged, which is fair enough. But I think eventually it has to become something where it doesn't take the piano technician every time to remove the standard action and swap it out for the ESPK or the Stretto keyboard, just for convenience, because otherwise it has to be done on an as needed basis. So any thoughts on what I'm saying? So basically now
I will add, which may be obvious to most of us technicians on here, but with you folks that might end up pulling an action in and out eventually, one of the biggest headaches about pulling an action in and out is if you press on the keys while you're pulling it in and out, you can break off hammers. And it's so painful because you can fix that, but it takes a while and they're so fragile and you're always like, oh, I should have known. That's probably the biggest thing that your tech is afraid of.
Like I said, with some training, watch. I think that maybe we all have to maybe go through a training program to know what to do and how to handle it so that we can be trusted.
Sure.
But I'll suggest that now that it's doable again. So I guess we're back in business, about to be back in business. We were in business and now we went out of business for a little bit, but now we're back in business.
Good. Yeah. And I think it's exciting actually to think about the fact that these keyboards that David has built are actually adjustable. So, you know, this is the thing, of course, with Steinways, they're custom built. So it's not like when he builds one for a Yamaha Grand, well, those are uniform. And so it's very easy to move them from one Yamaha of the same model to the other. With the Steinways, of course, when you do get a new instrument that you want to place the keyboard in or the action in, you have to be able to adjust the action. And so he did make them fully adjustable. So things like string heights, which are different on Steinways, that is adjustable. And so the Steinway, the actions that he has built for Steinway that we're using for the leasing program, fortunately, they are adjustable. So when they're sent to universities, then the technician can adjust it for the particular Steinway that it's going to be placed in. So now that's different than the Yamaha in a setting. Now we've just leased a Yamaha to the University of Montreal. Not the Yamaha, but the keyboard that will go into a Yamaha C7. They happen to have a lot of C7s in their building. So that action is going to be able to travel from piano to piano, room to room. So that's one of the advantages of, having the Yamaha in the building. However, a lot of schools are wanting them for their Steinways. And so then it's just, yes, it's adjustable, but you're not going to be able to just pop it in the next Steinway in the other studio. The technician will have to come and make those adjustments for whichever, and it might take a day, it may take longer to actually do all the perfect adjustments to move from Steinway to Steinway. So that's how that works. But I'm so glad, David, that you're going to be able to now use it for your new Steinway.
The only thing is that sometimes it takes a bit of work to convince a student who desperately needs to use this keyboard, this Stretto keyboard, to use it, because they still got it in their head, and I don't blame them, that they're going to have to go out and play a standard piano action, a standard piano keyboard most places, and that what's the point? Why should I get used to the luxury of having something that I can work with, but then have to play any other place? And so I'm just encouraged that things are picking up but I think it has to mushroom and just become more global. Yeah.
If I could just, that is the number one question I think that we get. So I think maybe it is important to address that. The students who will never otherwise be able to play a Rachmaninoff etude, or maybe even a Chopin Ballade, several of the Chopin etudes, if in their university study, they actually have the opportunity to study that repertoire and play that repertoire, imagine the experience they have, because probably, most of our students do teaching in their lifetimes. Wouldn't you want to have had the experience as a student of playing and performing this repertoire before you try to teach it? And so even if they never, after they graduate from the university, even if they never have the chance to put their hands on a Stretto keyboard again, they've had that experience, they've expanded their repertoire, they understand what it is to play it. And you don't even have to perform on it to get the benefits, because so many students are saying we're using the keyboard to teach us how to play with a more relaxed technique, how to take some of the tension out of our playing. And they feel that it's actually helping them, instructing them to play better on the standard keyboard. So hopefully those are at least two reasons that you can give to your students about benefits, even if they don't in the future. Although we're very optimistic because the keyboards are proliferating,
Well,
right? So we're
Carol,
optimistic.
May I say something really quickly?
Yes, of course.
So, David, part of the reason that I have gone to the trouble of creating this really what is a marketing platform for Stretto pianos, and Stretto pianos are any kind of piano that has narrower keys. I mean, I'm basically devoting my life to we're doing it. We are creating a worldwide performance platform for everybody. You know, if I within the next few years, we'd like to have venues all over the globe where people can go and play concerts on pianos that fit their hands. And what I've learned from working with Carol and Rhonda Boyle, that this is the reality that we could put into place together if we're organized about it. So, you know, I'm really doing everything I can to raise enough money to have Stretto piano concerts to be a very viable business. I will stop teaching and just doing this so that, and we're doing it. We can see that in May, there are going to be places for everyone to play all over the world. And we'd love all of you to join us. So that's all I'll say. I don't want to take more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay. Thank you for those arguments, Carol, that you gave. I will use those for my students to say, I don't care what you just said. There are reasons for you to do this. You need to do this, and all for all those reasons. And thank you for all that you're doing, Hannah, to promote this. And thank you for letting me be on this podcast. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, David. Okay, so shall we move to Michigan and speak with Logan Skelton?
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been aware of Carol and her work with these keyboards for some years now, and sent some students to the Dallas International Piano Competition where they played the instruments. At Michigan, we're new to this. We have two keyboards. One's a 5.5, one's a 6.0. And at this point, they're on lease and they're just in a practice facility. We don't have any of them in the concert halls. And my work with these has been limited to overseeing a research project of a doctoral student. Jaren, you know Jaren Susahin, who's done her project called Exploring the Future of the Piano with Ergonomically Scaled Piano Keyboards, a study of student learning. And she threw herself into this and did a lot of work measuring hand sizes at the University of Michigan, all the pianists, and she compiled the data, and it basically, as you might expect, confirms a lot of what's already been done, but she wanted to see for herself here. And then she had a series of video sessions with pianists with relatively small hands, playing specific excerpts. These excerpts were things that were kind of like conundrums for a pianist who isn't able to reach certain things. And then she selected her excerpts with my help, and then filmed people playing on a standard size keyboard, and then each one of these reduced size keyboards, and then picked excerpts that showed angles and did them in slow motion and sort of presented all of this, what it actually does to a pianist to have to twist and stretch, and how it affects their technical development, and that she's a passionate advocate for the keyboards. And at this point, we're at the point where we're needing to explore grant monies to see if we can purchase these keyboards and keep them, and then perhaps expand it in the future. But it's going to be a matter of finding broad support to get the money. But I think I have some ideas with Jaren. We'll put our heads together and see what we can come up with. But I have a completely new thing, Carol.
What
And
is that?
it may be interesting to you and to other people. And I was just thinking about it as I was preparing for this broadcast. I just spent several days at MIT, and they have a nano immersion lab, and they hook you up to all kinds of sensors. And this is scientists who have a motion laboratory. And do you remember, I don't know if you remember, Mian Kim, she participated in the Dallas competition.
Yes.
She played her performance on the 6.0 keyboard,
Yeah.
I believe. And she never forgot it. But now she teaches on the piano faculty at MIT.
Oh,
And she has worked with the Nano Immersion Lab. And she got a Steinway Spirio and put it in the lab. And she and I went there for several days and got hooked up to, we looked like cyborgs, you know, all sorts of sensors and wires connected to us. And it will show you in great detail what's happening with your muscles and the electrical activity and even ultrasound. It will show you what your muscle tissues are doing, and they can play it back and time it to every moment in your performance. And we have a series of excerpts that we did, and we had a kind of student who came and tried different things. Now, this is a standard keyboard, but I think it's going to turn into a much bigger project, and that is the plan. And it occurred to me, wouldn't it be interesting to have these alternately sized keyboards in that lab and show, in terms of the electrical activity and muscles kind of straining or not, and exactly how long and to what extent they're it's easier and more efficient on these keyboards. I wonder if there might be a way to incorporate the alternate sized keyboards into that research project.
absolutely. Yes. I mean, would love to talk to Mian and talk about leasing, a keyboard for research. And it could even be, it could be an upright for that type of environment. And and there has been a little bit of work done with that. It's kind of like what those who are in sports have the advantage. They have people who are studying movement and really taking a scientific approach to movement. And so I think this can only help us. And this is why I've always believed that, they start at the university level and they sort of branch out from there, because, we can do all these different things. We can have students work on it from pedagogy angles and from now like scientific angles and from performance angles. So that's great. I love that idea, Logan. And I hope that they would be interested in doing that as well with the keyboards. Sure.
I will definitely put Mian in touch with you, and you can talk with her, because the project, if it's going to be something more extensive, it was just over several days. But apparently, these movement scientists and researchers at this particular moment are interested in studying pianists. I think it's because of fine motor activity. Yes. And there's really nothing better in a way, according to them, than to observe pianists in great detail. I know there have been some studies with electrical activity, but it's called a nano lab for a reason, because it's an incredible microscopic look at what's happening. And I would think that if you could make use of this data that you would probably find a lot of support for the things that you already are saying and thinking and know, but it would just be a mountain of data that might support. And I might mention the other thing Jaren and I have done, but and she's been great about it, is we have taken pieces that she's wanted to play desperately for years and years and years, and hasn't really been able to. She made an entire lecture recital out of just nothing but Rachmaninoff. And in that, she had to play a standard size keyboard, but it was a tremendous amount of time and energy spent in refingering and hand arrangements. And it was like an endless series of puzzles to do it. So she's been approaching the issue of pianists with smaller hands playing all of this repertoire from two sides. One is the smaller keyboards, and the other is what do you do on a standard keyboard? You have to creatively rewrite things and hand arrange things. And I think if you do both things, one argument for that approach is you become, you form habits that are very good and healthy in movement. And both of those seemed to help Jaren simultaneously. And I'm happy to say she performed wonderfully Saint-Saëns G minor concerto with the Ann Arbor Symphony.
Oh, fantastic.
There was a level of fluency to her performance that seemed remarkable. And I think it's partly a result of her work during this past year on those two avenues.
Yes. And when that's a testament to your guidance too, Logan, and how flexible you are as a professor and creative as well, and your open-mindedness to the idea of a different technology as well. So thank you. Okay, so we are going to go to Germany now, to Sylvia, who's such a fantastic pianist. I love your playing so much, Sylvia. Tell us about your school that you're at and the work that you're doing and involved in.
Yes, I'm really honored and happy to be here, part of this connection with you. Thank you. I have to say that hearing you talk about this pianos spread around universities for people to practice, to record, to teach, I can only dream of the day when it's like that here too in Germany. And it's walking forward. I think it's on the way. I teach actually in some different places. I teach in Regensburg at the University for Piano Pedagogy and Piano Pedagogy for Music Pedagogy and Church Music for non-major pianists, and the School of Music at my city close to Stuttgart. It's called Esslingen, and at the University for Music and Performing Arts in Stuttgart as a lecturer for it's a matter. It's called Coaching Series 6.0. And I teach on serious pianists, major, non-majors, organists, historical piano players, historical instrument players, and we work directly on serious and focused on healthy play and as prevention and hearing what you told about the experience of the students, taking the positive things and the facilities and the easiness to play, and at this narrow keys, going back to the 6.5, we are experiencing this too here, and it's so satisfying, so important, mainly because we don't have more than one till now for students to practice and to experience. And
Sylvia, would you tell us just a little bit more about the Sirius piano, because it's not a Steinwiller built keyboard?
yes, of course. Sirius, it was named by Ulrike Wohlwender, who spoke last time, and the head of the Future Initiative, Sirius 6.0. And this piano arrived at the university in 2020, together with pandemic, actually. And I just initiated my studies, my master's studies in piano pedagogy 3 months after Sirius arrival, and till there I have never heard about narrow keys. It was completely new for me, and it was a no go not to be part of it, because it was so, oh my God, it's so amazing and it's so important. We have to work to spread it and to make it true, come true, this dream come true. And this piano is a baby grand Yamaha, and it's in a room for practice and for teach. But it's a very flexible piano because we use it for Stretto concerts and for symposium and to practice and teach. And we are trying as much as we can to get students to try it and to practice there. And with small or not very small hands, and we are very, very happy with the steps it's taken here in Germany. As a non-German person, I think I'm allowed to say that this project is lucky to be running in Germany, because it's a country in Europe which can support it and financially, and private persons and not private persons and manufacturers who are getting very interested in this theme. And we are, with this continuation of your amazing work for so many years, we are so proud and honored to keep going with this in Germany, in Europe. And these steps forward are bringing us to interchangeable keyboard 6.0 manufactured by Steiner & Sons in Hamburg, and it's arriving at the university next year, beginning of next year. And we're very happy that there will be a tiny D with interchangeable keyboard on stage, and the students who have already played and who are practicing in these pianos, they are wishing, as I'm wishing, as Ulrika is wishing, to have a really good instrument where you can profit from the possibilities to make music as better as we can, and as relaxed as we can, and playing more repertoire. And yes.
So what has the keyboard meant for you as a performer, as a pianist? How have you benefited personally?
Personally, I didn't think I could have so many positive things about playing on this piano. I didn't think, okay, my hands are not so small. I don't think I need, as you mentioned, I don't think I need bigger keys, but I wish I would have bigger hands, and that's the thing actually. So I need it. No? And I felt in another body. I was another person, because everything changes. No? You're more relaxed, and each time I went to practice, I realized something different and another gain. And and I've learned so much to play on the standard keyboard, and it's incredible. It's yeah. It's amazing. I wish I could have this at home, and let's see when it will be possible.
Yes,
And
good. Yes, I think that, we're realizing that the ability to be flexible is a huge part of having technique and of becoming better at our craft. And so for many, many years when pianos were first invented, there was this flexibility that people had because they were playing different size keyboards all the time. And then once we standardized at the end, of the 19th century, then we no longer realize as a pianist population that we actually have the ability to be quite flexible. So now we have the opportunity again to make these experiments and realize that if you have the ability to go from piano to piano, size to size, we already have the ability, of course, to adjust to different touches, different sounds, different acoustics. This is, another step toward that, to becoming actually better pianists, whether or not, a pianist wants to play on smaller keyboards for their career. It's still, really important for them to learn this flexibility. Yeah. So I realize it's getting a bit late. So Ethan, Hannah, did you want to? Are there any questions you wanted to post for anyone, or does anyone else want to make some comments at this point?
We could bring Hannah on real quick. And yeah, Sylvia, what do you got?
I would like actually to finish with just inviting you to follow the Insta profile of Series 6.0, because we are starting the crowdfunding for the interchangeable keyboard. And yes, that's it. And thank you.
Do you want to put something in the chat, Sylvia, about that?
I can do it. I can do it. Thanks.
Good.
Excellent. Let's see here what's in the chat already here, just to see if there's anything interesting. Logan had said, has anyone ever made larger keyboards? One purpose might be so that pianists with large hands could experience for themselves what smaller handed pianists experience the time playing on standard sized keyboards. It also might be interesting to study this on the MIT Nano Lab.
Yes. David Steinbuehler has made a Goliath keyboard. He calls them the Goliath keyboard, and we actually have made some 3D, plastic keyboards just so that people with larger hands can actually at least put their hands on the models to kind of feel like, oh, that's what an octave feels like. But I love that idea of actually using a Goliath keyboard to study, like in the Nano Lab. That would be revealing, wouldn't it?
I think it would be helpful also for teachers who work with pianists. Maybe they themselves have very large hands. It would help them understand what are the issues actually. I know when my wife was pregnant, I used to make fun of her getting up and down out of a chair until they made me in this birthing class wear an empathy belt. And then I had me stand up and down, and I shut my mouth.
Oh, I love that. Maybe instead of a Goliath keyboard, it's the empathy keyboard.
Something like that.
Well,
Can I add to this too? So part of the reason that we decided to have the Rachmaninoff event is because, as I mentioned in the last professor's podcast, Rachmaninoff was 6'6" and he could reach from a C to an A, nearly 2 octaves. And his piano writing is uncomfortable for a lot of people who have large hands. His music isn't played as widely as Chopin's or Beethoven's or Bach's or Mozart. And I noticed after our live concerts in New York that, people who weren't interested in Stretto pianos would come up to my piano and say, I just want to try the Rachmaninoff. So if we open the playing field, and David's music has some of that in it too, and so does Prokofiev and Scriabin, and the people who wrote on these big keys that were standardized after standardization happened. So that's part of the point of this this performance event, to invite to broaden the playing field for people with larger hands to jump on, because they don't need a Goliath piano to have a difficult time playing Rachmaninoff. Does that make sense?
That's so true.
Yes.
I'm curious, Logan, since you're a very highly esteemed professor, have taught many years. What would you say is the percentage of students that come through your studio that have the need for a different size keyboard? Would you be able to estimate that, or?
I don't know if I would say need, but they would benefit from it. And it would be very valuable to use. 50% maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's a much higher percentage of women.
Right, of course.
And Jaren's research, of course, just confirmed what you've been writing about too. There's a gender issue. I'm hoping that's something we can use in getting funding.
Right. So yes, the idea of inclusivity, it's big in universities right now. So in terms of grant writing, we can always use this argument, and also technology. So there are technology grants and also money set aside for inclusiveness. So thank you for bringing that up, the whole idea of gender.
Yeah, I'll piggyback. We'll sign off here in a few minutes. We'll start wrapping up, but I'll piggyback on what Logan said earlier. It was many years ago, maybe been a decade, but I do remember hearing about some studies, and it was actually at MIT, and a very similar thing, but it was about the elderly. And so they would put you in this getup so that you could see what it felt like to be an elderly person. And, it was like basically put weights on your shoulders and, something to make your fingers not function as easily, and, goggles on to make your vision worse, all this stuff. And a very similar concept, right? And you wouldn't have thought of that, but it really is impossible for us to know what it's like to be other people. But I think it's easier through those types of examples than trying to do it through imagination, for sure. So let's wrap this one down. I think maybe we could just let everybody who's spoken today remain here as we are. But Carol or Hannah, if you'd like to say kind of your final words, and then I'll wrap up the session, and then we'll see everybody next time. Who should I hand it over to? Carol, Hannah, who'd like to take the reins for a moment?
I'll just say thank you so much, all of you, for being here. It makes such a big difference for us to all be speaking like this, face to face, kind of. And Carol, please add any extra comments you have.
I'm just so grateful that we have a forum where we can actually get together, because, sometimes we can feel all alone with our, our projects. And when we can get together and discuss things, it's very, very exciting and energizing. And so I hope we can do this more often, for sure. Thank you, Ethan, for providing that forum for us.
Thank
Excellent.
you, Ethan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure, happy to have you guys. Glad there's some
Thank you.
synergy here. And I will say, I talked about, I think last week in our session, we are testing ground on a new podcast concept We're going to definitely have it be something that's researched and make sure that there's a demand for it and some feasibility around it. But the podcast will potentially reach a more broader audience. This one's kind of very basically for piano nerds, but we'd like to launch something that both brings a higher production value to the game. Maybe some sound design in the ultimate production of the podcast and some scripting and so forth, and be able to cover things like bringing on celebrity musicians who share their passion for acoustic pianos, right? People may know about these musicians that they're great, but they may not know that they have an acoustic piano and enjoy it and appreciate it for different reasons than an electric piano, as well as take some time to explore some interesting aspects of the piano from a narrative type of angle. If you think about some of these popular science podcasts where they can talk about some very obscure science concept, but really make an engaging story around it for the average listener. I think there's a space to do things like this for like the history of piano, personalities in the piano, sort of developments in the piano, whether it be something that's historical or something that's on the cutting edge, like what you guys are doing. And in addition to that, educating the audience in an enriching, entertaining, narrative way about the various aspects of piano that people might not be aware of, like what is voicing a piano. Even some of the greatest pianists in the world don't have enough access to the intricacies of what voicing or regulation is, or the various parts of the piano that matter and how to optimize them. So we can bring in aspects of like that in a fun and engaging way too. So anyways, I see episodes around concepts like Stretto and what you guys are doing, as well as other technological developments fitting in here. So I just want to put that on everybody's radar and get all your feedback on how that should evolve. We're going to be testing the concept throughout the coming months. All right, I will say before we wrap up here, I will just say we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. We thank everyone here for joining as a panelist, as a guest, as always, and as always the audience. We're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour at just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. Sign up at bit.ly/joinptrh. That's bit.ly/joinptrh. Okay, we'll see you all next time. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for being here. See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.